Welcome to Whispers. This is where I share the most haunting, bizarre, and downright weird stories from Reddit and the web. Think ghostly encounters, unexplained mysteries, and tales so strange they'll stick with you long after you've heard them. So, grab a blanket, turn down the lights, and hit that subscribe button. My wife stepped on something in the lake. The next day, they found a body. A few years ago, when my daughter was a toddler, my wife and I used to take her to a nearby lake to picnic, swim, and just unwind. It was a peaceful spot. Quiet, not too crowded, the kind of place where you could easily forget about the world for a while. One afternoon, after we'd finished eating, my wife decided to go for a quick swim while I stayed on the beach with our daughter. I watched her wade out into the water, the sun sparkling off the surface. A minute later, she suddenly stopped and turned to me, shouting something. At first, I couldn't make out what she said, but her expression was off. Then I heard her clearly. "I think I just stepped on someone's face." I froze for a second, thinking maybe she was joking. But the look on her face wasn't playful. It was pale, almost terrified. She quickly started making her way back to the shore, her legs moving faster, like she couldn't get out of the water fast enough. When she got back to me, she was visibly shaken. She said that while she was swimming, her foot brushed against something soft, and at first, she thought it was a rock or a weird patch of seaweed. But when she pressed her foot down, she felt the unmistakable shape of a face beneath the water, a nose, an eye socket. She swore she felt the hollow of the eye. I considered going in to check it out, but something stopped me. The unease in my gut, maybe. We decided to pack up and leave right after that. The next day, the local news reported that a young boy who had been missing for days was found drowned in that same lake, not far from where we had been. He'd been there the whole time, just beneath the surface. To this day, my wife is convinced she stepped on his face. I survived an attempted murder 19 years ago and only processing what happened now. When I was 15 in 2005, I was a bit of a troubled kid, but not too bad. I started getting into smoking weed, drinking, and sneaking out of the house sometimes. I had a mix of friends, some good influence and some bad. I never thought of myself as a bad kid. I was very friendly and a wannabe hippie. I just wanted to be out with friends on my terms and sought fun times. I had a habit of sneaking out at night to see my boyfriend who lived up the road. He would knock on my bedroom window at night and we would go get Slurpees at 7-Eleven, sometimes smoke a joint, and I would sneak back into my bedroom. Pretty harmless stuff, but now that I am a mom myself, I know how wrong that was for me to be doing. My mom found out about my antics, and I was grounded for life. And she didn't let me sleep in my room because she wanted to catch my boyfriend knocking my window at night and yell at him, LOL. So I had to sleep on the living room couch for a bit. One night, I was woken up on the couch with hands around my neck. I looked up and it was a man I didn't recognize. I started fighting for my life, mainly kicking my legs into his stomach until he fell over and ran off into the darkness of the home. I ran towards my bedroom where my mom was sleeping, and she was already trying to get out of the room as she heard me screaming. She asked me what was going on, and I told her a man was attacking me. She immediately ran to check the back door and the front door and came back to tell me they were both locked. She asked me if it was possibly a dream. I said I never could have thought it was a dream, as it felt so real. But maybe? She went back out and noticed the kitchen window was open and called the police. While we were waiting for the police, we saw a machete in the living room where I was sleeping. It was my mom's machete for hacking weeds, and it was always in our shed in the backyard, never in the house, so we knew someone brought it in. We also found that there were bricks and boards stacked outside the kitchen window that allowed for someone to crawl in. The police showed up and started asking questions. The only description of the man I could provide is that he was a man wearing a black shirt with a white stripe across the chest. I have memory of police talking to my mom at a distance, and she admitted to them that I had been up to no good sneaking out sometimes. After that, they were convinced that I had either staged the incident or perhaps I was asking for it based on my past behaviors. They couldn't find any evidence worth investigating until my little brother spotted fingerprints on the kitchen counter. The police were hesitant to take the fingerprints, but we insisted, and they did take them, They also interviewed neighbors, and the house next door to us had about 6 or 7 men living there, and they were all lined up in the front yard being asked questions. A day or two later, we got report back that the fingerprints on the kitchen counter belonged to one of the men next door. The report of their interview with him fit the description of him wearing a black shirt with a white stripe and muddy knees on his jeans. It appeared we had found the guy, and the initiation to go to court started. There was a series of court appearances, and it didn't solve anything. One of our neighbors across the street is close friends with the man who attacked me, and she wrote in her affidavit that my mom hired the attacker to do renovation work in our kitchen, to explain the fingerprints, I guess. Which isn't true. We had never met him before. We didn't hang around the neighborhood for long. Mom didn't feel safe living next to the man, so we moved 4 hours away to a small town. Litigation continued, and many delay tactics happened after that, and eventually 3 years later, I was convinced by court officials that I should not proceed with the hearing. I was 18 and didn't know what else to do, so I just gave up. The man got away with it. Either way, I survived and blacked out a lot of memories. My family and I didn't talk about it much, if at all, and I just continued on with my life. I was talking to my mom today, nearly 20 years later, and lit of the blue, I said, "Remember that time I almost got murdered?" And in response, she recounted a lot of things that happened during and after the traumatic event, and I have zero recollection of any of it. My life has been a big mess since this event. More chaos ensued after that, and I have always kind of been on the run and almost seeking out trouble. But I am highly skilled at masking too. I have a great career and maintain decent friendships, but it's grueling to keep it steady. I got a late diagnosis of ADHD a couple years ago, but I am starting to convince myself that maybe I don't have ADHD and it could be something trauma-related. Anyways, that's my story about almost getting murdered 19 years ago.
Well, that was intense. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to Spine-Chilling Tale on Whispers. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more eerie adventures from the darkest corners of Reddit. Got a weird or creepy story of your own? Share it in the comments, and it could be featured in an upcoming video. Until next time, stay curious and keep listening.